for asking me. So I am originally from this small country called Eritrea in East Africa. Um, it's just north of Ethiopia, and we share a lot of similar culture with Ethiopians. And uh, I personally also speak um, several Ethiopian language. So yeah, I'm originally from Eritrea, and I came to the United States in the year 2000. So it's been about 20 years now that I've been in the U.S. And I was born in this small town called Karen in central, north central part of Eritrea. Small town, pretty traditional African community. And I definitely will be speaking a lot about my cultural background um, as we extend the conversation eventually. And but for now, I am originally from Eritrea in East Africa.
What made you come here? Or
That's a pretty good question. So first, I came to the United States to go do my postgraduate studies, and I came.
in history?
Yes. Um, so I graduated from history from a university called University of Asmara in Eritrea in the year 2000. And as soon as I graduated, I had already applied for graduate studies around January of 2000, and I was accepted, uh, and I had a scholarship that I received, and that's how I was able to come to the States. And first, I came to California, to Los Angeles, to specifically UCLA, and I was in California for 2 years.
And how long were your studies there?
2 years, and as soon as I finished school, I could not go back to Eritrea because of the situation over there, and I moved to Clarkston instead.
Why did you pick Clarkston?
Well,
So,
my uncle is here, so I actually have been to Clarkston before I moved here to visit my uncle during Christmas, and also holidays. So on summer also I was coming back and forth to Clarkston. Um, so yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of people move to Clarkston. They either are resettled to Clarkston, or they come just like me, following their relatives or their friends. And in my case, it was following my uncle and living with him. That's originally how I ended up being in Clarkston.
how did you figure out that you couldn't or you didn't want to go home to Eritrea?
Oh, that's a whole other long story. But to make the story short, Eritrea is a beautiful country in East Africa. However, we lack good governance, and especially since 2001, the Eritrean government has been pretty autocratic in nature, and uh, I, I mean, if I had to go back, I really felt I could
Be arrested?
I could be arrested, even worse, and it had happened to many people, even if they were legal U.S. citizens or legal residents of the United States. There were cases where they were
Well,
arrested.
so what would the Eritrean government know about you that they
Uh,
might on
that's
their radar scope to say we got it? This guy came back. He's going to jail for 10 years.
well, it's just not me. There are tens of thousands of Eritreans who leave the country every single year. There is an estimate that they say that about 1,000 Eritreans leave every month from Eritrea, and they go to neighboring countries like Sudan and Ethiopia, and a lot of them end up in Europe. They take very risky routes through Libya, And so
To this day, still to this day.
to this day, even in the midst of COVID-19, there are Eritreans leaving Eritrea because of the government. And the thing is not just educated Eritreans; it's anybody who would speak out or even considers speaking out against the government could be arrested in Eritrea. So we have had the same government since 1991. And pretty much in terms of leadership, we've had the Eritrean rebels who became the government. They've had the same leadership for the last, I would say, 50 years, I can say. So, I mean, right now in Eritrea, there's only one political party, which is the government.
Well, just like the United States,
Yeah,
we
well,
only have
it's
one political party.
it's a lot different.
No,
believe me,
no, no,
but I
sorry.
understand what you mean. But in Eritrea, there is no vice president. There's only one guy. He doesn't have any deputy. There's I mean, one television, one radio, and you got one newspaper. That all is government sanctioned, and there is no other allowed ones. And that's actually why I did not want to go back to Eritrea. When I was in Eritrea, it was a lot hopeful. So we did have
There was a lot what?
hopeful. We did have private media. I mean, especially newspapers. There were over 10 newspapers that were privately held. And in around 2002, when I was in the States, that's when, actually 2001, that's when they banned all private media, and the government basically said no more private media.
So
And
you
that
got
was it.
here. You got here just in time to avoid the crackdown. I
Well,
guess.
it's not. Well, yeah, you know me. I always speak my mind, and especially since I lived in the United States, I was never afraid of expressing my feeling or my concern for Eritrea. So obviously, I definitely felt that I would be targeted, and there are so many Eritreans who were targeted and who ended up being in jail. One of them I can mention to you. So there was this lady named Aster, and she was the previous Eritrean foreign minister who was already also in jail. So she was here in the United States to study, and she was promised that nothing will happen to her. But as soon as she went back, they picked her up from the airport. She never met her family. She's still in jail. Nobody knows where she is up to this day. So there have been so many instances where people who came here to do studies would end up in jail. So
Do you miss Eritrea for everything else that was good about it? Your growing place where you grew up, culture, and
absolutely. I mean, I more than anything else, I miss my family, my mom, my brother, my sisters, and friends that I grew up with. Although most of them are not even in Eritrea, they have left. Most of them, and I have more friends outside Eritrea than I have in Eritrea right now. So, um, but I definitely miss it. Um, but there's a lot of things that I don't miss about Eritrea. Obviously, I don't miss um, the dictatorial government. I don't miss um, the condition over there, but I definitely miss my family.
what was the circumstances of you start wanting to run for council?
Election of Ahmed Hassan in 2013. When I see Ahmed win, that kind of gave me a feeling
That was before you.
that was before me. So I think his election was very
Inspiring.
inspiring, and obviously Clarkston had really moved a lot in terms of um, diversity, and also not just in terms of residents but also in the council. So election of Ahmed was one of the best things I think that motivated me, because when you see a name that you can resemble to, even seeing the yard signs was something that kind of piqued my attention, that somebody with named Ahmed Hassan can win in and be a city council member.
And now he's
still in the
Muslim from
Somalia.
Somalia.
Yes.
And now, but you're not. Your faith is, well, I mean, it's what, Eastern Orthodox from Eritrea.
Not Eastern Orthodox, but I come from a very mixed religious background. So my father is Roman Catholic, and my mother is a Muslim. And
How did that work out?
well,
How did that start?
That's definitely.
Wouldn't that be off limits? Good
well,
grief.
actually, the city that I was raised in and the community that I belong to is very tolerant. Is very open in terms of religiously, and this is one of them. I mean, it's not. It's very common to see people who have mixed backgrounds. So what happens is the child takes the faith of the father, and
Say that again.
the child, whichever is born out of interfaith family, would take the father's faith. So that's how I ended up taking growing up as a Roman Catholic. However, my Catholicism is also Eastern Catholic. So we have the same liturgy like the Orthodox. And if I go to an Orthodox church, I definitely enjoy the liturgy, and it's very similar. We have the same even language that we use in terms of our liturgy. So I am definitely in a lot of the liturgy and the culture of the faith. We are heavily influenced by the Eastern Orthodox Church, and historically, my ancestors were Orthodox in their faith. So, yeah, we are.
I am deriving from this conversation that Christians and Muslims live in Eritrea, live in close proximity, and their churches are.
Yeah.
And is there conflict?
No.
Or is it's a kind of a
So
symbiotic relationship where you got what I need,
right.
I got what you need, kind of thing.
Yeah, you are right. I mean, so in Eritrea in general, and particularly in the culture that I grew up, we are a very small minority. I can call it tribe, quote unquote. We are called Benin, and we are a very small minority, probably 500,000 in population.
Do you speak? Is there a language?
That I do speak that language as well, and that's pretty much my first language, I think. So.
And this is an African tribal.
Yes.
Aside from Catholicism, and
aside from all, and the people has always tolerated in terms of religiously that they eat together, they live together. There is no religious conflict whatsoever. And particularly,
that's interesting.
You would see it. I mean, we all eat a meal together, and you have the Christian ones would do all the prayers, Lord's Prayer and Hail Mary and miscellaneous other prayers, and the Muslims would just wait and sit with them quietly, and as soon as they're done, they just say in the name of Allah, which means say Bismillah, and they eat together.
I never would have imagined.
Yeah.
Believe me, I never would have imagined. So you speak Benin? Your tribal language, and you speak
Tigrinya is another language in Eritrea. It's used predominantly in northern part of Ethiopia and Eritrea. Tigrinya is.
And then you speak Amharic.
I also speak Amharic. Yes. I also speak another language called Tigray. It's pretty similar to Tigrinya and Amharic. And of course, I speak English. A little bit of Arabic I could speak. So.
And what about Italian?
Oh well, I think I do very rudimentary Italian. Italians had 3 colonies in Africa: Eritrea, Somalia, and also Libya.
So when did the Italians leave?
The Italians left. Well, they didn't leave. They were pushed out by the British during the World War II. Pretty much same manner as most colonies that were British. I mean, that were Italian, German, and Japanese. They were taken over by the Allied forces, and which included the British. So in 1941, Eritrea was. Uh, I mean, the Italians were removed from Eritrea, and then the British took over in Eritrea.
Do either the Italians or the British have any tentacles or influence
Tentacles.
in
Well, it's
in
not
Eritrean or Ethiopian government?
I think almost most African countries are closely tied to their former colonial, I shouldn't say the word masters, but colonial powers. So you have the French that pretty much control most of um, Northwest Africa because they were their colonial power. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that that colonialism has ended, but in terms of influence, the former colonial powers have a lot of heavy hand in terms of influencing, including current governments. In some countries, they would even go and take over the country and remove the president or whoever is the leader, and they will replace him by somebody else. So I'm not surprised if the Italians also have influence in Eritrea or tentacles. I'm not sure how to
Well, I
call
would mean
it.
How has your background, your being from Eritrea, affected how you see your role in politics in this type of a community?
Oh, that's excellent question. And I think it affects not just in terms of uh, the city council. I can say it's just part of my personality that my perception, my way of the way I process information, the way I think, is absolutely shaped by my upbringing, and a lot of it. So far, it has been in a positive side for me. It's been actually a lot easier to fit serving in the city council. The fact that I come from a multi-phase background, it makes it for that's just one example. It makes it easy for me to work with people who have different religious uh, or no religious backgrounds. So I definitely think that definitely shapes a lot of my thoughts, and it's been so far in a good way. I mean, I just it makes it easy for me in terms of or it makes it how can I put it? It makes it a lot easier for me to live with the decisions that I take.